Whenever the days grow shorter, the nights grow colder, and I start to think about the winter holidays, I usually picture the warmth and celebration of Christmas. Red and green, wreaths and trees, and gifts passed between loved ones I haven't seen in a really long time. Of course, that's just one outlook on the season, and the more I grow and meet other people, the more I learn about the many different ways we celebrate the closing of the year, and the bigger truths these celebrations all share. Since starting this channel, I've covered a number of holiday specials and superhero comics, showing how the transcendent spirit of these characters can inspire us to bring a little holiday cheer to others. And while every superhero has their own dedicated spin on the winter season, few titles embody its variety of perspectives or communal spirit better than the uncanny X-Men. Originally introduced as a metaphor for the power of atomic energy, the team steadily morphed into something more empathic and inclusive over the years. A found family where anyone, regardless of race, creed, class, or gender, could find a place where they truly belong. And in the 60-plus years since their debut, the X-Men have amassed one of the biggest catalogs of holiday specials in comics, setting the eternal struggles of winter chaos against an ever-changing roster of characters, each on their own journeys of self-discovery. And though the length, tone, and quality of these stories can vary wildly, they still manage to highlight the compassion that these characters and celebrations represent, uniting people from across every walk of life to remind us just how alike we all really are. So join me as I count down some of my favorite X-Men holiday specials and explore how Marvel's mutants can make the holidays just a little merrier. Merry Christmas X-Men, from Uncanny X-Men numbers 98 through 101. Like most of the title's enduring mainstays, the history of X-Men holiday specials begins in the 70s with Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum's story, Merry Christmas X-Men. Picking up just 5 issues into Claremont's 17-year saga, something I've covered in another video, the story sees this group of then-relative strangers trying to make small talk while tons of passers-by, including Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, look on and judge them for being young and directionless. We've all been there. But this holiday discomfort quickly gives way to an all-out attack by the returning Sentinels, and before you know it, the X-Men find themselves in a spacefaring battle against Stephen Lang and Project Armageddon, escaping certain death, squaring off against robot replicas, and launching a desperate run back to Earth that sees Jean Grey reborn as the Phoenix. It's a great preview for the absolutely bonkers adventures Claremont would spiral into over his run, revitalizing old villains, setting up future stories, building up relationships between characters, and giving everyone their own mini-arcs over 4 issues. And though the Christmas special setup kinda gets lost in the shuffle of it all, the story's climax in issue number 101 ends up channeling a spirit that anyone who's lived through a stressful holiday can relate to, with the new team finally coming together after their ordeal, celebrating Jean's recovery as a family for the first time. There's a reason why adversity plays such a huge role in holiday stories, stripping away all the materialistic fluff of the season and reminding us, sometimes very bluntly, that our fellow people are the things to celebrate, not gifts. And given how the story merges these themes of overcoming adversity with the high-concept drama of the X-Men, it's no surprise that it would go on to be one of the most iconic moments from Claremont's run, helping to further cement the popularity of this new team. And as a result, Claremont would continue to pepper holiday specials across his 17-year run, using each adventure to mark the passing of time and reflect the spirit of the season through an ever-growing cast of characters. Demon, from Uncanny X-Men number 143. Hey, imagine that, more Chris Claremont. I got a feeling this guy's going places. By December of 1980, Claremont's X-Men had become one of the highest-selling comics on the stands, thanks to an intricately plotted soap opera format, high-concept adventures that span the entire Marvel universe, and rewarding partnerships with artists like Dave Cockrum and John Byrne. In fact, Claremont and Byrne's partnership would end up fully transforming the team, sending Jean Grey on a journey that saw her exit from the book to be replaced by the younger, less experienced Kitty Pryde. And yeah, I already made a video covering that too. Happy holidays! Of course, the X-Men had been a multicultural team since Ween and Cockrum first rebooted them back in 1975, but thanks to Kitty's entrance as the new POV character, Claremont and Byrne were able to get much more in-depth with this concept, using larger-than-life superheroes and everyday interactions to show how these many different people try to coexist with one another. And that's where their last collaboration, the 1980 story Demon, comes in. The issue begins with a flashback to the events of X-Men number 96, when Storm destroys an ancient monolith in a battle with demons, accidentally releasing one onto the grounds of Xavier's school. The story then flashes forward to the present day, with the team traveling to each of their homes to celebrate the holidays, leaving Kitty, the team's one Jewish member, all alone in the empty X-Mansion. A real dick move, if you ask me. Naturally, the fear of being alone during the holidays is something we've all felt in some form or another, but in true Claremont fashion, that fear becomes very literal when the demon kills a couple of passers-by, finds its way into the mansion, and starts hunting Kitty. At first glance, it's a pretty thin concept, with Claremont and Byrne pulling their classic move of porting their favorite new movies into whatever they were writing that month, like, say, the Xenomorph from Alien. But when seen through the lens of Kitty's holiday isolation, something Claremont likely pulled from his own experience as a Jewish man, the story takes on new levels of depth, with the young X-Man fighting for acknowledgement among her friends in addition to her own survival. Eventually, Kitty is able to outmaneuver the creature, roasting it like a chestnut with the Blackbird's engines just in time for the X-Men to arrive back at the mansion, with Kitty's parents in tow. It's a great, if somewhat rushed way of showing Kitty's evolution from a sidekick to be ignored to a fully fledged member of the team, another voice broadening the mutant metaphor into something anyone can identify with. And though everything wraps up crazy fast, with everybody just kinda shrugging off the evil vibes in the house, it would serve as the first of many steps in Kitty Pryde's journey as an X-Man, and a fun, if lovably schlocky reminder that during the holidays, everyone deserves to be heard.
Hello. On Christmas Eve, Kitty Pryde underwent a rite of passage, a supreme test of her abilities, her intellect, her courage, her self. She passed.
Ghost of Xmas Past, from Uncanny X-Men number 365. I know this might sound shocking, but the 1990s were a pretty chaotic time for the X-Men, Marvel, and comics in general, with a growing speculator market and a general demand for bigger, crazier events causing shakeup after shakeup for Marvel's mutants. The team's hideout bounced from Alcatraz to Muir Island to the Australian outback and back to the X-Mansion. Wolverine got the metal ripped off his bones and turned into some kind of feral dog thing. Everybody got their own clone, costumes got a bunch of pouches, the Age of Apocalypse happened, it's a whole thing. Not surprisingly, Chris Claremont would leave the title in 1991 after several arguments with editorial, replaced by numerous writers including Fabian Nicieza, a returning John Byrne, known scumbag Scott Lobdell, and Big Hero 6 co-creators Stephen T. Siegel. It's an era absolutely bursting with ups and downs, with occasional nods to Claremont's human drama shining through all the line-wide crossovers and impossibly massive shoulder pads. And that brings us to Siegel and Chris Bacalo's A Ghost of Xmas Past, which follows the recently returned Colossus attempting to settle back into his old life on Christmas Eve, only to be visited by a ghostly voice asking him to remember something, and a mysterious collaborator adding to his art. This ends up sending the gentle giant on a Dickensian adventure of his own, with some tongue-in-cheek nods to the original Christmas Carol as several major X-Men reflect on the recent past, the moment of peace they're in, or the future they're trying to build. And though the Phantom artist turns out to be Marrow, who's been trying to pay back an act of kindness from a few issues ago, Peter's journey proves powerful enough to shake loose the memories of his late sister Ilyana, helping him finally reconnect with the friends he's regained by honoring the family he's lost. Given how it's the darkest, coldest time of the year, the winter season has a long association with gothic concepts like death, loss, and grief, largely popularized through stories like Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And when you hold that tradition up to the many losses the X-Men have suffered over the years, it only makes sense to have a holiday story that reflects on those losses. I mean, Wolverine can't keep holding that down by himself, you know? It gets unhealthy after a while. But what I like most about this story is its attitude toward holiday grief, namely that instead of sadness or isolation, grief can be a shared, joyous experience, bringing us together to honor those lost while celebrating the new family we found along the way. Now, if you've stuck with X-Men for any amount of time, then you'd probably know Colossus, Magic, Wolverine, and pretty much everyone in the story has died, come back, and died again since its publication. And while that might seem like a damper on the issue, I still think it's pretty in keeping with the spirit of the holiday that nothing can keep a loving family like this apart forever.
The Ice Princess was happy at last. She called everyone she knew around her, and they celebrated the one thing that mattered more than having a pretty face. Having friends who are more like a family. P.S. I do not look like this.
Ceremonies from X-Men number 109. No matter what holidays we celebrate, the winter season is practically defined by tradition, helping us imbue meaning into every day of the season through what we wear, what we eat, what we decorate with, and the many stories we tell each other. Growing up, many of us are taught about these traditions through our family, and find comfort in returning to familiar rituals. But naturally, nothing can ever stay the same forever, and as both families and people grow, the traditions we cling to start to take on newer, deeper meanings of their own. As of 2000, the X-Men had once again been fully transformed, gaining a new adjectiveless title in 1991 under Jim Lee and ballooning its cast into a massive, multi-generational ensemble. This emphasis on bigger, bolder stories eventually led to 1996's Onslaught, giving a darker side to the stern but caring Professor X and reshaping the Marvel Universe through the disastrous Heroes Reborn reboot. This was also followed by the X-Men movie in 2000, which revitalized the superhero subgenre and helped champion a sleeker, more subdued take on the title and its characters.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
After years of chaos, the X-Men were on the verge of another major evolution. And who better to explore this than artist Thomas Derenick and a returning Chris Claremont. That's right, baby, he's back again. Fittingly titled Ceremonies, this single-issue special is more of an intimate breather between adventures, uniting X-Men old and new to explore just how complicated things have gotten. Starting with Neil Shara, the team's newest member, the writer spends page after page exploring this bigger, messier group, how they interact with each other, and how their many new philosophies have forced them to rethink their central mission and their parts within the team. Some, like Rogue, are grappling with evolving abilities. Others, like Neil and Betsy Braddock, navigate the beginnings of a flirty new relationship. A bit awkward since Betsy's other boyfriend, Angel, is like right there. But of course, the biggest thread of the issue revolves around the Books of Destiny, a series of doomsday prophecies about the future of mankind, and who should wield them, with Storm suggesting the X-Men form their own team instead of following a leader who's just as fallible as they are, hinting at a possible schism within the team. No, not that one. All the while, Claremont continues to grow the scope of the issue, bouncing between many of the team's former members and their ongoing adventures before giving them one last gathering at the X-Mansion, letting the team's many members reconcile as Charles gives Storm's team his blessing in a rare moment of humility.
Carols are sung, and stockings hung, toasts of eggnog made and gifts exchanged. For the first time in a long while, there is only laughter to be heard throughout the mansion.
It's a quiet, beautiful story that plays as a bookend to Claremont's first holiday special, giving readers a moment to appreciate everything that's happened before launching them into another new era. Unfortunately, that era proved to be short-lived. While Claremont ended up writing a 4-year stint on the new Extreme X-Men, his return was quickly overshadowed by Grant Morrison's simultaneously running New X-Men, which capitalized on the success of the movies and reinvented the title to critical acclaim. And yet, 2 decades and multiple reboots later, the spirit of Claremont's X-Men feels alive and well, with the writer and his favorite X-Men returning again and again in their own kind of tradition. I guess the more some things change, the more others stay the same. Merry X-Men Holiday Special from 2018. Hopefully by now, you're starting to see a pattern, namely that as both the team and the title of X-Men grows more diverse and complex, the traditions and ceremonies surrounding them also start to change, taking on generations of new perspectives. Naturally, this steadily shifting focus comes with its own challenges. How do you make a story that gives everybody a voice, and more importantly, how do you tie it all together? The answer is 2018's Merry X-Men Special, which unites a host of writers and artists to tell 25 micro-stories for each day of the holiday season. And before you ask, yes, Chris Claremont's also here too. Though there's a loose through line across the special, following Jubilee and her son Shogo as they're captured on the way to a Christmas vacation, the issue's one-page, one-story format really lets each creative team make every adventure their own, taking on different explorations of faith, holiday angst, empowerment, charity, and togetherness. For some, the excitement of the holidays is something experienced in passing. For others, it's a time of well-deserved celebration. And for many more, it's a season of reflection, reminding us of the struggles we've weathered over the past year or inspiring us to pass on the kindnesses we've received from others. As we come to the end of this trip through the X-Men's many holiday specials, what becomes clear is that the spirit shared by these characters, and by all of us, is too big for any tradition to contain. No matter what faith, creed, or walk of life we embody, we as people crave connection, whether it's through metaphorical stories of acceptance or the real-life communities we choose to be a part of. There will always be forces in the world driven to separate, to make us hate ourselves or fear others. But when we open ourselves up to a bigger world and embrace compassion, we all have the chance to become a part of something greater. A family that's ever growing, ever changing, and moving step by step towards a better tomorrow. One year, one holiday, and one small act of kindness at a time. Happy holidays, everyone, and thanks for joining me as I close out the year and revisit some of my favorite holiday comics. Obviously, this is a bit different from what I normally do, but since I had a little extra time and wanted to challenge myself a bit more this year, I thought it'd be fun to dig into a bunch of holiday specials at once and figure out the bigger ideas they all have to say about the season, not just Christmas. This year's been really challenging, but it's also been really fun thanks to my friends, my family, and the community we've built here. So, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you all for sticking with me for another year of videos. It means the world that I get to talk about what I love and share my thoughts with all of you. Are there any holiday specials you wish I covered on this list? Any themes you wish would get their own special? If so, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And of course, if you like this video, please feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because every little bit helps the channel out a lot. I'd also like to give a special gift-wrapped thanks to Carol Ann Brenneman, The Comics Cave, and my patrons, who are helping me to grow this channel and continue doing what I love, and hopefully what you love too. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, try to spend some time with your chosen family, and have a happy holiday.